Good morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Thursday, October 4th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka is absent. Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
And Chairman Eilert.
Here. We do have a quorum present. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those who are present, if you have a noise-making device, would ask that you turn it off or silent mode not to interfere with our electronic communications as we do stream all of our meetings. We have 3 presentations to make this morning. We'll do so at this time. Cindy Green from the County Manager's Office and Jeff Stewart from Parks and Recreation are joining me this morning at the podium. October 4th through October 26th is our United Way campaign, supporting that effort. And Jeff and Cindy are heading the campaign this year, so I'm going to ask them to make whatever remarks and share information about the campaign.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's my pleasure to be here with you this morning. Jeff Stewart with Johnson County Park and Recreation District, and on behalf of Cindy Green, Tiffany Hinchel back here in the corner as well, has been working with us very closely on this. We're excited to be here. We appreciate your continued commitment for this very important cause as we prepared to launch this year's campaign for the United Way. I might make mention this is Tiffany's 25th year in helping with this campaign, and it's her leadership and support.
Amazing.
And I know I will pay dearly for pointing her out this morning, but I thought she deserved some special thanks for all that she does to contribute to the community here. We do recognize and certainly appreciate all that we're so very fortunate here in Johnson County, and I want to recognize too that so many from our own Johnson County family have been so supportive and giving with their efforts and time and gifts over the years. Even so, we still have many folks here in our own Johnson County community that are in desperate need for help. So our work is not done, and we're committed to continue that to provide services, critical services to help those that are in need. Just 2 days ago, we met with our ambassador team. The ambassadors represent all departments county-wide, and they're energized and engaged and ready to work with all staff county-wide to be able to bring some awareness and encourage support to provide some gifts to the United Way that will reach many organizations that serve our community. Our goals for 2018 are lofty, but we believe we can achieve them. The goals are to raise $116,000 in contributions and have 400 county employees participate with donations. We're confident with our nearly 4,000 employees that we'll be able to achieve both of these goals, and we're excited to get started. Just this morning, an email was sent out by the United Way to all county employees to encourage their participation and to bring some awareness. So we're ready to get started, and we want to thank all of you, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, for your continued support in this. We're excited to get going.
Just saved it all for Jeff, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we had a conversation earlier. Are there ambassadors here that you would like to invite to come and share the photo op? Or not, as you.
And Brandon Carney from the United Way is here with us this morning as well.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask Susan Pekarik to join me at the podium. Susan is the Director of Johnson County Wastewater, and we have a couple of items to share with you this morning. Proclamation has been prepared claiming October 10 as Imagine a Day Without Water. Now, Johnson County Wastewater does not provide, back up, Water One provides the water that we drink every day. But Johnson County Wastewater and the stormwater management effort is an important component of the keeping our streams clean, our environment clean, and Johnson County Wastewater does a terrific job. You might remember, I think it was last week or the week before, we recognized the various facilities, wastewater facilities in the county, and I think there was one that had 12 years of no clean water violations, and several other had long periods of time. So what wastewater does, what our stormwater management program does, is to continue not having a negative impact on our streams and environment, and contributing to clean water across the county. So Susan, I'm sure you have some comments you'd like to make. And secondly, I almost forgot, they've received recognition and an award from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, which Susan will also speak to.
Okay, very good.
Well, thank you, Chairman, very much, and thank you, Commissioners, for having us today to recognize both of these important things. I have a short video I would like to show everyone, and then I have a few brief remarks. I also have Lee Kellenberger here from Johnson County Public Works. As Chairman mentioned, stormwater is a huge part of clean water in Johnson County, so I think Lee has a few remarks. And then the award, I have our superintendent of our collection system, and he would like to make a few remarks as well so that we can celebrate that award. So we'll do the video, I'll have a couple of comments, and we'll move on from there. Thank you.
Clean water. In the U.S., we have access to some of the cleanest water in the world by simply turning on the tap. People wake up every morning, take a shower, make coffee, and start the day. Water is an essential part of life. The average person uses 88 gallons of water per day at home. That's 2,678 gallons of water every month per person, most of which leaves the house through our drains and disappears from our minds. Then it comes to us. We clean water to keep us safe. We clean water for our environment. We clean water for our communities and the communities connected to us. We clean water for our lives now and the future. We collect water. We treat water. We return water to our streams and rivers. We clean water because we know that it is essential for our lives. What we do every day gives us the quality of life that we love here in Johnson County and all over Kansas City. Every innovation protects our environment and enhances our communities. Every decision and action serves our customers by protecting our futures and the futures of all in the metro area. We are Johnson County Wastewater, and we clean water for all of us.
So our very own Caleb Castile and Johnson County Wastewater produced that video. I think it really shows the importance of what we do. Clean water is needed not only for basic services, but it's really needed for economies to thrive. If you've never experienced it, it's really hard to imagine what a day without water would be like. So I'd ask you to think through this morning. Think of everything that you've done this morning that required water. Not just the potable water coming to your house from the water purveyor, but also taking that water away so that you don't have to think about it anymore after you've used it. Couple of statistics here. So the average American uses 17 gallons of water when they take a shower in the morning. It takes 19 gallons of water to grow the apple that you packed in your lunch today. So as you can tell, clean water is very important. The water you use flows away from your home and business, as the video explains, and we at Johnson County Wastewater take it, clean it, and return it to our rivers and streams so that someone else can use it downstream. Sewer systems like the ones that Johnson County Wastewater operates provides for safe, clean, and thriving communities like ours. Investing in our infrastructure to renew our sewer system assets helps Johnson County Wastewater not only provide the level of service that we do, but it also helps us keep our rates among the lowest in the metro area. I encourage everyone to visit our website next week on October 10th and learn more about what we do. I would also like to thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners, for prioritizing our sewer infrastructure and for proclaiming October 10th, Imagine a Day Without Water. I think Lee Kellenberger would like to make a few remarks as well.
Thank you, Susan. Lee Kellenberger, Johnson County Stormwater Management Program. I just want to echo Susan's comments. The investment that this board has made over the years in our wastewater collection system and treatment system and our stormwater conveyance system is second to none. We have some of the best infrastructure in the Midwest. So, but as the chairman alluded to, we aren't actually in the business of providing water, and none of our water utility providers are here today, but I do run in their circles sometimes, and I've crossed paths with them enough that I don't think they would mind me saying a few words today on the source of our drinking water. Here in eastern Kansas, we're blessed with abundant surface water resources. West of here, we are more and more reliant on groundwater. But here, the majority of our water in Johnson County, or all of our water in Johnson County, either comes from the Kansas River, the Missouri River, and some comes from Hillsdale Lake in southwest Johnson County. And most years, we have ample water resources. And I say most years. In 2012, if you recall, we had a particularly dry drought, or a bad drought. And if not for some timely releases from the federal reservoir systems on the Kansas River probably would have gone dry before it reached Kansas City. Now, I don't want to scare anyone and say that, we wouldn't have had water that day. I don't think Water One wants us to think that, but we do have a backup supply in the Missouri River, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And as we have seen more changes in our climate, droughts, wildfires, threats to our infrastructure, it's not it's not out of the realm of possibility that we will go to the tap someday and not turn on our water. So there is more investment needed, though, at the state and national level. A lot of our federal reservoirs in Kansas are 50% silted in their storage capacity. So as that continues to go on, we're going to have less, that resiliency in that system is going to become less and less. So just urge your state and your federal lawmakers to continue to prioritize investment in the national water infrastructure systems as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chair.
And Susan, did you want to speak to the KDHE recognition?
I will. So Raul Romero, would you come up here? So we have an award from the Kansas Water Environment Association. The Kansas Water Environment Association is a technical and educational organization that has the goal of preserving and enhancing water quality throughout the state of Kansas. This award, the chairman alluded to the awards we received a few weeks ago, which was celebrating the treatment of wastewater. Our goal is to transport and treat, and so this award today is celebrating the transportation of that wastewater to our treatment facility. So, Raul, would you like to make a few remarks?
Yes. I'd like to say thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Board. It wouldn't be possible without any of the help from the Board, from the County Manager's Office. I would like to give thanks to all the crews that work on a daily basis to create a wonderful collection system that we have. Still work to be done. We continue to improve it as the day goes by, and thank you for all your support during this process.
Well, thank you very much, and to all of those who assist in that program.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job. As JCW folks are coming up, I just want to mention this recognition has in large part to do with what we call our asset management program. This program was started in 2007, and it's an aggressive look at our system and make sure that it functions at a high performance level. I think there are a lot of items in the metro area where attention has not been paid either to wastewater or stormwater facilities. And so our rebuilding of the Tomahawk Creek wastewater treatment plant is an example of the effort that this asset management program provides for us. We've also begun a study of the Nelson plant, which is one of the oldest plants in the county. It's in the area, most people don't know it's there perhaps, but in the area of I-35 and Lamar. So it is an important management program to make sure that our system continues to perform at a high level. So thank you all. Appreciate it. I think I've got a proclamation or two here. I'll share. Someone can hold on to that one. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. At this time, we will turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anyone present who would like to address the commission on an item which does not later appear on the agenda, would invite you to the podium. State your name and address, limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we'll be glad to receive that information. Is there anyone present who would like to comment? If not, the public comment portion of our agenda is concluded. I do have one note for the record. I will be signing the Sixth Amendment to the loan agreement with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for Kansas Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund Project number 20-1920-01, Lateral Sewer District number 1 of Kill Creek number 2, revising the payment schedule of the to reflect the amount of principal forgiveness based on the project payments to date. This amendment does not affect the loan balance. That concludes notes for the record. Moving to the consent agenda, will the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda items?
Item number 1, consider approving the September 13th, 2018 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider ratifying the chairman's appointment of Ulysses Wright to the Community Corrections Advisory Board through February 7th, 2019. Item number 3, consider approving and transmitting the state fiscal year 2018 Johnson County Department of Corrections Comprehensive Plan Year-End Outcomes Report to the Kansas Department of Corrections. Item number 4, consider approval of an interlocal agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and the City of DeSoto for connectivity and the fiber use to the Johnson County Communications Center at 11180 South Sunset Drive, Olathe, Kansas 66061. Item number 5, resolution number 082-18, consider adopting an information technology policy for Johnson County government and authorizing the county manager to adopt information technology procedures consistent with the policy. Item number 6, consider authorizing an FY 2018 start date for the FY 2019 approved personnel requests of 1 FTE Customer Relations Engineering Technician for wastewater and 2 FTE for IT Asset Administrators for the Department of Technology and Information. Item number 7, consider approving a contract extension with Allen Gibbs and Hulick for audit services through July 31st, 2019. And item number 8, consider entering into a business operation agreement with the Johnson County Fire District number 2 district to allow the county to provide certain ministerial, financial, and general record-keeping services.
Is there a commissioner who would like to have any one of these items considered separately? Mr. Ashcraft?
Number 8, please.
Okay, so noted. Any others? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? There's none to be heard. It's back before the commission. A motion is in order. Mr. Osterhaus.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda items 1 through 7 as read.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 7, as presented. Any further questions or comments? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye, motion carried. Item number 8, Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as you, excuse me, as you know, this body met as the Fire District Board last Thursday evening to discuss this. We had a very thorough presentation by the chief. Chief, appreciate that. The question that I had raised at the meeting, and I was going to ask if Mr. Thompson has given it any further.
The question was?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was looking for Mr. Thompson, and he moved. Regarding the metrics used to recognize the relationship and the performance expectations between the fire service and the county, if that had been given any further thought, or if he has anything to report.
Good morning. Maury Thompson, Deputy County Manager. Yes, Commissioner, we have given that some thought, and I actually had the opportunity yesterday to meet with Brent Christensen from Treasury and Financial Management. I know Brent is here today and can provide further detail. We talked about what would be important to measure for both bodies in terms of performance under this agreement, and Brent has laid out a number of items for us to look at. One I would characterize as a reduction in our personnel spend, what it's costing us to make the purchases of the fire district, looking at the efficiency and effectiveness of the purchasing that we're making using purchasing cards. We think there's potential savings as we move the district to that system. Looking at and measuring our payables per invoice, payroll costs, we believe there's opportunity there. And finally, fixed assets and risk management, employee safety, there are opportunities there. So he's laid out a number of those measures for us. During this period between now and the first of the year, as we're calling a transition phase into the new system, we need to do some measurement of where the district currently is in order to set those targets, but he's laid out a number of measures for me to look at.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Chairman, with that, I am happy to make the motion as read.
Okay, the motion has been made to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve. I would simply say this. This is based and similar to other contracts that we have with other jurisdictions for specific activities.
Correct.
So, if there are no other questions or comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner and Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving to the action agenda, item number 9.
Resolution number 080-18. Consider approving an agreement submitted by the City of Olathe, Kansas and the Fire District Number 1 of Johnson County, Kansas, and ordering the detachment of land from the boundaries of the fire district and the transfer of such land to the city for fire protection services.
Mr. Lynn.
Rick Lind with the Legal Department. The City of Olathe adopted 2 ordinances that annex certain land into the city. The land is located within the boundaries of Fire District Number 1, and it contains 3 tracts. The annexation also included land within Fire District Number 2. However, this detachment is only for that land located within Fire District Number 1. The City and Fire District Number 1 entered into a detachment agreement, and pursuant to state law, the city and the fire district must obtain the county's approval of this agreement prior to the detachment. The agreement provides for the fire district to continue to provide fire services to the area through 2019, with the city to take over fire protection services in 2020. Therefore, the city will not receive any taxes for fire services until 2020, and there will not be any possibility of double taxation, I know, which was a question asked last week. The agreement also does not include any compensation to the fire district as a result of the detachment, as the fire district determined that the detachment will not materially jeopardize or affect the remaining tax base of the fire district. There is a representative of the city here today if you have any questions for them.
So I understand that there is agreement between the fire district and the city in regard to this item. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lynn, were there any discussions concerning future annexations, either with this district or other districts by the city, and how that might impact revenues? Or are these annexations just, I'm going to use the term one-off circumstance? Is there a plan for annexations in these areas, or is it just based upon the individual property owner's desires?
You know, I may ask the city's representative to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Yoza, City of Olathe Legal Department. The City Council's policy is to do annexations generally by the consent process, and that was the case in these. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. We recently did a traditional annexation process, so we do some of both, but in this situation, they were all consent annexations.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? If not, it's back before the commission. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I move to adopt resolution number 080-18, which approves the agreement between the City of Olathe, Kansas and Fire District Number 1 and orders the detachment of land from the fire district to the city as set forth within the resolution.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the resolution and the agreement regarding the detachment of land from Fire District Number 1. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm supportive of this, but it does continue to raise the question of the growing pressure on these districts as the cities expand their boundaries, and I hope we can remain sensitive to that, because there, at some point, conceivably, will be a tipping point, at least for some of the districts, and I hope we're in a position to make sure that the fire services and their revenues are sufficient, or we've got plans to move accordingly, whether it be greater coordination or even consolidation of those services. So having said that, I am supportive of this measure.
Okay. Any other comments? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 10, request for proposal, RFP number 2018-062. Consider rejecting the proposal of Henry Wurst Incorporated and authorizing a contract with LSC Communications for printing and mailing services for publications created and distributed by the Johnson County Public Information Office, Johnson County Park and Recreation District, and Johnson County Library at a cost not to exceed $300,000 for a period of 1 year, with the option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods.
Yes, Mr. Franzen.
Good morning. Tom Franzen with Treasury and Financial Management. As you may recall, last week, staff asked the board for a 1-week deferment on this item to further research information regarding the proposed vendor for our printing and mailing services contract. While staff had initially proposed awarding a contract to the top-ranked firm, Henry Wurst, additional information was identified that staff deemed the proposal to be non-responsible due to concerns with the firm's ability to perform the contract requirements. As such, staff further vetted the second-ranked firm, LSC Communications, and have found that firm to be responsible and have confidence in their ability to perform the contract. As identified in the briefing sheet issue statement, the action before you today is to consider rejecting our initial recommendation of awarding a printing and mailing services contract for publications to the top-ranked firm, Henry Wurst. We are also requesting the board continue this item for 1 additional week to complete the purchasing process for the recommendation to authorize a contract with the second-ranked firm, LSC Communications.
All right, simply stated to reject the contract that was recommended previously, and this will be continued for 1 week for additional review of the second contract proposal. Is
That is
right?
correct.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Franzen, just a kind of a procedural clarification. Given that this was just a briefing sheet presented to us without any action, why do we need to reject a proposal if, in this circumstance? Well, why don't we just act on the final official proposal that staff is offering? That procedural is just kind of an oddity. I don't think I've seen that. Any clarification would be helpful.
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, staff talked at length about the process we wanted to follow, and staff felt it was in the best interest, because we had presented to the board an item for action, to actually have the board take action on that item. That's why we're asking for you to reject what we've brought forward. We want to make sure the process is open and transparent and be true to the purchasing process to allow everyone to have an opportunity for input. Based on that position, if you take action today to reject, we will then defer for 1 week, come back with action for another rating firm.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone present who would like to speak to this item? If not, Mr. Brown, you have a motion?
I do. Thank you, Chairman. I move to reject the proposal of Henry Wurst, Inc. and to continue this item for 1 week to complete the purchasing process for the recommendation to authorize a contract to LSC Communications for printing and mailing services for publications created and distributed by the Johnson County Public Information Office, Johnson County Parks and Rec, and the Johnson County Library at a cost not to exceed $300,000 per request for proposal, RFP 2018-062, for a period of 1 year with the option to renew for 4 additional 1-year periods.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to reject the contract with Henry Wurst, Inc. and authorize additional information to be gathered in regards to LSC Communications to be presented next week.
The contract proposal.
Contract proposal thereof, yes. Any other questions, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Chairman. I would like just to keep up to speed with this as it's moving along, Mr. Franzen. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. No further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhouse.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Item number 11.
Conduct a public hearing and consider approving the proposed Streamlined Public Housing Authority annual plan for the period covering FY 2019 for submission to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD.
Jesse.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jess Moffel, Johnson County Housing. Johnson County Housing will continue to explore opportunities to better serve our customers and community. With that, I don't have any further comments than the ones presented last week. I will stand for any questions that you may have, though.
Let me ask you this. This is an item that is much under discussion with various nonprofits and other agencies around the county. How strong is the Section 8 program, which I know provides a lot of opportunities for low and moderate income for housing options? Is that program continuing to grow, or what are the numbers now?
The number of authorized vouchers we have is 1,447. It's been that amount for several years. We don't expect that to change. We have been deemed a high-performing agency for years.
As I understand, landlords have to agree to engage in that program. Is that right?
Correct. It's a
Are
housing
all the
choice
vouchers
voucher
currently
program.
being utilized?
Yes, all the vouchers are utilized.
Okay. And the authorization for the number of vouchers comes from?
HUD.
HUD. Okay. Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, that was a very good question. I think it's on point. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Moffel and his staff and talk a little bit about this program, and Mr. Thompson was there. And one of the points that we talked about was of all the, and I'll use the term federal inputs that we have available to us, what flexibility we might have to get to the core issues of homelessness and poverty and the impact it has on the community. And Mr. Thompson had several interesting notions, and I think he had some thoughts about potentially some legislative suggestions, and I don't want to put him on the spot because it was just kind of preliminary discussions, but I was wondering if he might highlight a couple of those points, because I can't remember who else was it.
David Ward and Debbie Collins.
Yeah, and Debbie Collins were there. Were also part of the conversation, but maybe Mr. Thompson could give us a 2-minute synopsis.
Sure.
Or less.
Be happy to. And we really identified two courses of action. One is to look at all of the federal funds flowing through the Human Services Department, whether that's coming from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Community Development Block Grants, pure county dollars, and our city dollars coming into the county, again, to address housing-related issues, kind of mapping that out, then where those dollars are going to and how they're meeting the identified priorities of not only this body, but the community at large. So we're going to go through that exercise. Then you commented on legislatively, and I think there are opportunities. One of the continued frustrations I know of this body and of staff as well has been the limitations on some of those federal funds and how they must be used, providing us lack of flexibility. So we talked about potential alterations to our federal legislative platform, beginning to advocate for essentially more flexibility to use those funds consistent with community needs. And one of the specific thoughts we had was talking about kind of old language, but demonstration projects, allowing communities flexibility to use maybe a small amount of funds to demonstrate outcomes consistent with the mission of HUD, but again, targeted to specific community needs.
So hopefully Ms. Green will add that to the potential legislative issues to discuss.
And then, Chairman, if I may, I'd like to address
Let me interject. This is a public hearing. It is open. The comments that have been made so far will be part of that record.
Thank you, sir.
We knew what you meant, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, to your comments, which were very appropriate, and I think perhaps what you're getting to is, even with the number of vouchers that we have in Johnson County, the demand is far outpacing the number of vouchers. We have a tremendously long waiting list in Johnson County. And then secondly, you may be reacting to what I continue to hear from staff is, with our vouchers, we're losing landlords willing to accept those vouchers in Johnson County. So that's creating a new stressor on the system here.
Yeah. Other comments, Mr. Osterhaus?
Well, I just wanted to thank Mr. Moffel, too, because he emailed me after last week's presentation, and while we have this number of vouchers, those vouchers are actually much greater when you consider there's multiple people living in those homes. Many of them, I think about half, if I remember the email correctly, have some sort of disability. About 20% are our aging population, so some very good things being done with that, and thanks to you and, as you mentioned, a high-performing organization with those dollars, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone present who would like to speak to this issue, would invite you to the podium. Again, state your name and address, and we'll be glad to receive that information. If there's no one to be heard, the public hearing is closed. The item is back before the commission. Mr. Osterhaus.
I'll move to approve the proposed fiscal year 2019 Streamlined Annual Public Housing Authority Plan covering the period of 2019 as recommended by the Director of Human Services and approved by the Housing and Community Development Advisory Committee for submission to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the request in regards to the Public Housing Authority. Any further comments? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Item number 12.
Resolution number 081-18, consider to amend the FY 2018 to 2022 Capital Improvement Program, CIP, to include Health and Environment Electronic Health Record System capital project and approving and authorizing a contract in an amount not to exceed $300,000 to CDP Incorporated, funded with Public Health Fund reserves for the purchase, customization, and implementation of an electronic health record system for the Department of Health and Environment, DHE, RFP R28129, Unified Government, Wyandotte County.
Mr. Radney.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. This item, and we talked about it a little bit last week, essentially has four components to it. One would be consider adopting a resolution to amend the current FY 2018-2022 Capital Improvement Program. Along with that would be to establish in Health and Environment an electronic health record system capital project. Along with that, funding that project out of Public Health Fund reserves. And then lastly would be to approve a contract with CDP Inc. in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for that electronic health record system. With that, I will stand for any questions you might have.
Mr. Fratney, would you give us a short explanation of the benefits of this action?
Yeah, I think there's several. First off, our current electronic health record system is no longer eligible for enhancements from the current vendor. It's an antiquated system. I believe it's very manual in our ability to have to manipulate data coming out of it and then interface that with the state. We have some concerns as it relates to that current software being able to continue to work as it will reach end of technical support in June 30th of 2019. And there's no real assurances from the vendor that that software will even properly operate on newer versions of the SQL servers. In addition, there are a number of other public health agencies that are in similar situations and circumstance, and we've begun talking with them and working with them and collaborating with them to come up with a unified approach and working with the state to that end. It's my belief, and what I've seen anyway as it relates to this, that there will be some cost savings associated with that collaborative approach, and we'll probably have a better system for it. So with that, hopefully that answers maybe some of your questions.
Thank you. Other questions? Again, if there's anyone present who would like to comment on this item, would invite you to the podium. There being no one to be heard, do I hear a motion? Mr. Osterhaus.
I'll move to authorize the adoption of Resolution 081-18 to amend the fiscal year 2018-2022 Capital Improvement Program to include Health and Environment Electronic Health Record System capital project and approving and authorizing up to $300,000 of Public Health Fund reserves for the purchase, customization, and implementation of an electronic health record system for the Department of Health and Environment.
Aye. Motion. Second. We have a second.
Yeah, second
Whatever you choose. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolution 081-18. Any further comments or questions?
Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Johnson County is putting $300,000 toward this system is what we're asking for here.
That's correct. That's our portion of that.
What is the total cost?
You know, and I believe we did discuss that last week, and it's
Lugene, could you come to the podium, please? Lugene Marsh, Public Health Director.
Thank you. When we began preparing our briefing sheet, we believed that our share of the purchase could approach $300,000. We have worked with the vendor and with our multi-county partners and have been able to drive down our portion of that cost to around $188,000, and the total cost for the acquisition across the 5 counties is right at $457,000.
Okay. And each of those counties, how is it determined what their percentage of the whole is by population?
The primary factor that drives the cost of an electronic medical record or electronic health record is the number of users. So the clinical staff, the support staff that will be using that system in order to provide clinical services. And Johnson County has the largest staff of any of the 5 counties. The second largest county participating is Wyandotte County, and their purchase cost is right at $158,000.
Okay, that's great. And then just one more question, Chairman. So in this joint system between 5 counties, can anyone in public health at any of those 5 counties access all of the records or just their counties? Is it partitioned? What is the security threshold?
Right. There will be partitions between each data set for each county.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Excuse me, Mr. Jarrett.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that the motion including approving and authorizing the contract with CDP, because I believe we missed that in the motion.
Okay, so noted.
My motion does not have that, so. But
That will be included in the motion.
I will accept that.
Second agree?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Are there any other items on the action agenda?
No, sir.
Moving to reports and communications, Ms. Postoke Ferguson.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. First item is regarding the medical examiner facility. On October 8th, the public meeting will be held at the City of Olathe to review the preliminary development plan for the proposed medical examiner facility. And a few notes about that also coming up, we have a committee of the whole on November 1st to give you more information on that. And next month, we will also be looking at a GMP to bring forward to you for approval. Next item is transit bus on shoulder. We've had this program in place since 2012, but an update is that on Monday, October 8th, Wyandotte County will also be added to that. So we currently have 8 miles going from 95th Street along I-35 to Lamar that we allow bus on shoulder, and this will add 4 miles going to north to Cambridge Circle. You may recall last year the Kansas legislature adopted being allowed bus on shoulder in Wyandotte County so that we could extend that. This allows bus on shoulder to be used when it's congested to allow our buses to stay on time. And it allows 10 miles an hour faster than the traffic on I-35. And there are safety training in place for that as well. We've had good success with that program so far, so this will expand that. And Josh is here if we have any further questions on that. Then major projects update you have in your packet. I would like to point out 2 overall. I'd like to ask Aaron to come forward, and as he's coming forward on an airport item, I would just mention the courthouse and that we have a committee of the whole scheduled in the coming weeks. We are in the process of getting that on your calendars. So it'll be within the next 3 weeks or so, and with an action item for the GMP for the next big bid package for the courthouse, and that will be in early November as well. And that's for the building core and shell, as you know, the largest portion of that project. So those are some updates I wanted to highlight, and then Aaron's going to give you some updates on the airport hangar that's been in process, hangars that have been in process for a while. Aaron?
Good morning. Aaron Otto with the County Manager's Office, and this time wearing a hat with the airport. I'm hopeful this is the last time you'll see the airport's reconstruction of hangars at Executive Airport on the Majors Projects list. And the reason I have hope and optimism is that starting tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, weather permitting, we will actually reopen Oscar and Papa as 2 of the first 5 hangars, allowing tenants to come back in. They will be allowed, those who were in there first will have right of first opportunity to come back to their old spaces. If people have sold their plane or choose not to come back, then we'll start addressing the wait list. The hope is that the remaining 3 will be open by the end of the month, pending construction, weather, and work with the City of Olathe to get a certificate of occupancy once they're done. So the hope is by the end of October, we will have restored those back to as-was status, except for being new hangars, but the same number, the same position over on the east side of Executive Airport. So it's taken a long time, but finally we've arrived.
Okay, very good. Well, it's been a complicated process since the start, so congratulations to our airport board and airport manager for bringing us this potential conclusion anyway. Mr. Brown.
Just a comment, Aaron has done a great job. The airport board has done an excellent job. So has the staff at the airport commission and the airport operations staff in moving through what has had a lot of question marks around it. I think everybody's learned a whole lot about insurance and payouts and coverages and construction timeframes, and we'll be better off for it, although it has been a little painful at times. But I saw the new hangars and they're beautiful. There'll be very nice improvement there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may add, the county staff has been remarkable. We've worked facilities to help do the construction oversight, and just from the very beginning when this happened last March, county's always been there to be very helpful to supplement the employees at the airport, so they deserve a big shout out, especially to essential services within the county.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else?
I do have one more item. This is Michael Aldridge's last Board of County Commissioners meeting, and so I do want to acknowledge his service. He's been here since 2016, as you all know, as the Chief Information Officer, overseeing nearly 100 staff. And as you know, the Department of Information and Technology has technical services, infrastructure, the cybersecurity, GIS, mapping service, and much more. So besides his tenure here, Michael's 25 years in the field of healthcare and helping small and rural communities, hospitals, large health systems, mental health centers, public health departments have served us well, and he is returning back to that field. And so we're sorry to lose his expertise and his guidance, but we do have Brian Thomas, who will be kind of taking the reins here in a few days. And so we will look forward to that continued leadership. And Michael, so I would like to say thank you and offer you a chance if you'd like to say a few words. Thank you for your service.
Michael?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the kind words too, Penny. The work that we've achieved over the last 2+ years really has been in large part due to the staff. You know, I'm standing here receiving the praise, but the staff need to recognize they're the ones both in and outside of DTI. Additionally, commissioners and CMO, the work wouldn't have been achieved without your support, so that has been important, and that will be important going forward. So in closing, I've really enjoyed my time here. It's been an honor to be a part of such a great organization, so thank you again very much.
Well, Michael, thank you very much. Your leadership has been important as we've reviewed several aspects, important aspects of the systems that we use. And so thank you very much for your leadership and good work. Thank you.
Pleasure.
And best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it for my report. Thank you.
Okay. Turning to commission comments, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. Last Friday, I attended the Olathe State of the City address, and things are looking up as they typically are year to year in the city of Olathe. Things are well, growing and getting bigger as time goes by. On Saturday, was at the Overland Park Fall Festival Parade. It was well attended, as it always is, even though the weather was a little sketchy with the rain and a little bit on the cooler side on Saturday. But it was well attended and it was fun. And then we had Fire Services Task Force meeting on Monday, and fire districts seem to be pretty stable. Things are going pretty smooth, and I look forward to Fire District number 2 being spun back out on its own soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ostrass.
Well, I will echo the comments that Commissioner Brown made about the OP parade, where it's out there on Saturday, very nice. And I too was a little surprised with the cold and the weather, how many people showed up, but it seemed to be just about like it has been in years past, so it was nice to see. I want to thank Chief Francis for his hospitality and the employees of Fire District number 2 for our meeting on Thursday. Very informative. I think most of the questions that we had as commissioners were answered even before we had them because his presentation was so thorough. So thank you to Chief Francis. Had a ribbon cutting at Office Evolution on College Boulevard, new business that moved in. It was nice to be there and make some remarks on behalf of the commission. And then finally on Saturday was our third annual Library Lets Loose event, which was very well attended, and I had the distinct honor of being named the Osterhaus special for tickets. You get a number of tickets based on the tallest person in the room. So the Osterhaus special is worth 40 tickets in case you're wondering. So it was nice to have that little recognition. Thank you.
Hair doesn't count, does it?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Allen.
No comments.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Two things, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, a few weeks ago, I had inquired about us receiving some kind of briefing or update on the elections situation and the ESS review, and I was wondering if that was going to be forthcoming, because advanced voting will begin in a couple of weeks, and I keep hearing that question and hoping those assurances will be presented sometime soon.
And if I may, we plan to next
I would
week.
just simply offer this. The last report is that the process is moving right along, and I would anticipate that we will be hearing good news shortly. Mr. Waters, anything you want to add? Okay.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I've been wondering, and people have been asking. The second thing, Mr. Chairman, and this is a little bit more somber. I guess yesterday there was an incident in Florence, South Carolina, and our law enforcement officials, representatives, sheriffs, and police officers in Florence were serving a warrant and were attacked by I guess the recipient of the warrant. I do not know the details, but just recognize that the work that these individuals do, the men and women who serve us and put their lives on the line. And I just wanted to offer a moment of respect for those individuals and all law enforcement. They do so much for the community and sometimes don't receive the due respect that they deserve. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Thursday evening, we had a chance to participate and attend the grand opening and ribbon cutting for the Kessler. It's the new apartments building complex in Meadowbrook Park. If you have a chance to, if you're driving by Meadowbrook Park, you can't miss this building. It's on the east side of the property, and it's about 4 stories. They're taking citizens now, so people are moving in now, and we got a chance to meet some of them and had a great time. Junior and I went from there to the Light the Village Pink in Prairie Village Shopping Center, celebrating and making us aware of the breast cancer agreements and acknowledgments. So that was a good event, both of those events that evening. Saturday morning, most of you were at the parade, Overland Park Parade, but I had the chance, and Commissioner and I had a chance to go to the Stillwell Community Park Universal Playground opening and ribbon cutting. Quite an event. The kids really enjoyed it, and when you see that type of playground for universal use for all the kids, it's quite an accomplishment. So we want to thank the Parks and Recs for putting that together, and the City of Stillwell for participating in that particular effort. It was a great event. And then again, we had a chance to, like Jason said, and Chair was there as well, the Library Lets Loose, and Janine actually found Jason to measure the tickets as well. So we counted 40 tickets and used them, but we didn't win anything this night. So anyway, it was a good event.
No guarantee on the winning side?
No guarantee.
It's just you get extra tickets.
Yeah, there we go.
Need to work on that
I'll try
for
for
future. Well, thank you very much. Last Saturday was a busy day, Spring Hill Parade, Overland Park Parade, and the ribbon cutting on the Universal Playground at the Stillwell Community Park. So all of those activities occurred within about 30 minutes of each other. So I did visit with the mayor of Spring Hill last night, and they had a good turnout. Nice parade, as well as good comments, and thank you to the Parks Board and Johnson County Parks for their effort. There will be another Universal Playground completed, I think, in Shawnee Mission Park. So good effort to increase the inclusiveness of those who live in our community. And then the Overland Park Parade was also a very, very large parade, and so good time there. Thursday, October the 11th, several members of our board will be attending the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation breakfast, 7:30 a.m. at the Overland Park Convention Center. We do not have any executive session requests, so we are adjourned from our regular session. We'll take a short break and come back for agenda review for next week's business session. Thank you all very much, and let's hope we get some rain this weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
seemed like it took a little longer to get through, even though it was only an hour.
At this time, we will call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for the purpose of agenda review for next week's business session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Here.
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Click is absent. Commissioner Osterhaus?
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Chairman Eiler?
Here. We do have a quorum present. There are no consent agenda items. At this time, we'll move to item number 1, which is the business meetings for September 20 of this year. And Mr. Allen was absent, so that will stay on action. Item number 2.
Item number 2, resolution number 087-18. Consider approving the district coroner's appointment of Diane C. Peterson, MD, as a deputy district coroner pursuant to KSA 22A-226.
Mr. Thompson.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Maury Thompson, Deputy County Manager. I'll start with acknowledging the hire of Dr. Diane Peterson as the Chief Medical Examiner for Johnson County, effective 2019. Hopefully you've had a chance to see that information that I sent to you this week regarding that hire. In conversations with our current county coroner, Dr. Robert Prosser, he believes it would be a benefit to him and to Dr. Peterson for him to appoint her as a deputy county commissioner during this period between the time this
Medical
action.
examiner.
Medical examiner.
Commissioner, coroner.
What did I say? Commissioner. Is there a problem with that?
There's new opportunities.
I just expanded the commission.
Deputy
Thank you.
coroner, right?
Coroner. As deputy coroner, believes it would be an advantage to both him and Dr. Peterson during this transition period from the time this appointment is made until she assumes those duties in 2019 for them to have the possibility to work together in a professional relationship.
So this action would be to name her as a deputy?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Ashcraft?
Kind of a procedural question. You can answer this offline.
Okay.
The general understanding I've had is the Board of County Commissioners has 3 employees, and I'm just would like to learn in terms of the medical examiner, is this person an employee? I mean, what the relationship, how that works exactly. I'm good with this going on consent, Mr. Chairman, if that's a question you want to ask.
Well, why don't you
And
just
quickly to
respond?
answer your question, it's a bit complicated, but it's an employee. In the role as a coroner, there is an appointment, but Dr. Peterson will be an employee.
But Dr. Posner, is he our employee?
He is not an employee.
Okay, okay. He's a contractor. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any objection to having this item on consent? All right, so noted.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 3, consider contract renewal and addendum for Federico Consulting Incorporated for lobbying services.
Ms. Green.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Cindy Green with County Manager's Office. As you recall, a year ago, we put out a new contract. Well, we actually did an RFP first and selected Federico Consulting as our new lobbying firm in Topeka. And we had a one-year contract with them with an opportunity for another year extension. So I'm here requesting that extension. We feel like they've done a great job for us. They give us in-depth reports that have been appreciated across the county. The changes are, we made some technical changes because of the change in county manager. We updated the language, and then we also increased the compensation to $60,000, and then expenses not to exceed $2,000. So I would move that we would have the opportunity to renew this contract with them.
Well, I don't have a problem moving this to consent.
Agreed.
I think his organization has done an outstanding job for us this year, especially on the election bill, that we were successful at least getting the personnel as well as the budget authority back for the commission. So any other comments, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Chairman. I agree. Moving the contract forward with would be a good call. John and his crew have done a great job representing us in Topeka, and I'm looking forward to him serving with us again.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm agreeable to moving it to consent, but I would like to learn more about kind of the expectations and how you're measuring success. I'm just trying to understand how we're assessing that and how we'll be assessing it going forward.
All right, I will be happy to set up a meeting with you, sir.
First of all, I think he's done an outstanding job and would support continuing with that. I have a question in regards, there's a legislative task force that was looking at lobbying expenses for city, county, government and what was spent, and strictly on the lobbying part, ours was fairly moderate or whatever. But then they threw in what our dues are for Mark and NACO, and then their rationale is, I don't know how much Mark actually lobbies on our behalf. They throw the total amount of dollars in for that and the other, and then it does go up substantially with that. I don't know if we want to write some type of response to that or not. I don't just let it go or not, but then it puts it in a little bit different perspective. And I know we do a lot with Mark, and that's a planning organization. And they may do some lobbying, but that is not what the majority of what that fee is for, and the same for our NACO fees. But I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but the study's out there.
I think Cindy is putting together I will call it a clarification.
That is correct. It was post-audit that did a review of the 3 largest counties, 3 largest cities, 3 largest school districts. I believe legal sent you a copy of that report. And then what we did was we had sent in, here's all the associations we belong to. They came back and said, well, and highlighted, these are all the associations that have lobbyists that you didn't report, because we had 2 different columns. We had a lobbyist, and then we had, here's associations we belong to that don't do lobbying for us. And they came back, and Mark was one of them. They said, well, Mark has a lobbyist. Well, we don't use them as a lobbyist. So I am cleaning that report up so it's easier to read and for you all to look at, and it will have highlighted. Here's all the ones that we belong to. There's multiple associations we belong to, but they don't lobby on our behalf. They may hire a lobbyist, but they don't necessarily lobby on our behalf. So and we did, legal did share that with them when they sent us that, came back and asked for clarification on the report that we don't use those groups for lobbying and return that information to the post-audit.
I think it's worth to note that, there are treasurers, state treasurers organization, register of deeds, sheriffs, state organization. Most of the elected officials in the state of Kansas have their own organization, and which obviously our personnel belong to. There was also a health organization in Johnson County that I don't know how it got on our list, but they do not lobby at all for us. But anyway, there needs to be a clarification. Mr. Osterhaus.
Does post audit, knowing this information now, do they plan on changing the report, do we know, or do they?
No, they don't plan on changing the report. They've already given it to the committee, and I attended the committee meeting last Friday, and there were several people on the committee that flat out said cities and counties need the ability to be able to lobby on behalf of the needs of their people. But there is one senator in particular that is out to make sure that we don't have lobbying. They introduced legislation, I think it was in 16, that said that counties and cities or anybody that gets government money, tax dollars, that they cannot lobby. And that got shot down, didn't go anywhere, but I think this senator may be trying to stir that opportunity up again. So we are keeping a close eye out for it. The chairman is Chairman Olson of the committee, and his request was that the Senate and the House local government committees look at this information that was presented in post-audit and see if they want to do anything further. There was some discussion of tightening some of these things up to clarify what is lobbying too, because again, cities and counties each kind of introduce different information. Some of them may have given like my full salary because I'm considered a registered lobbyist, whereas some of the others only would do, we only did a percentage of my salary because that is not the full-time part of my job. But we presented it that way. And even on contract lobbyists, some of them put the full contract amount in, which we did for our lobbyists, and others break it down under, you know, this part of our job is lobbying, this part is reporting. And so clarifying what is lobbying is kind of a fuzzy area. And we all have to report in January how much of, you know, time we spent of our income is considered lobbying. So there's already some additional reporting opportunities for the lobbyists, but the cities and counties have not had to do this report. And I think if that ever comes down, that we would want to, as a county, make sure we look at each one of these and make sure that the report we're pulling from is accurate, that these associations are association dollars and we don't accidentally get in there. I'm going to use a chamber for a example. We have chamber dues that we pay. Most of them all have lobbyists. Well, sometimes you could get in a fee for a luncheon there. So you just, the numbers can be jaded sometimes if they're not clearly looked at. And so I think there would be a lot that we would do here and at the state level that we would encourage them, if they're going to do this kind of, you know, requirements on reporting, that it's clear and consistent across the state.
Well, and I think our legislative platform should reflect those, you know, potential issues and changes.
Yeah. No, it's worth, I think there is an interest, at least in one or two individuals, to continue the idea that was advanced in 2016. So we need to be ready to respond. Mr. Allen?
One final comment. What we spend on direct lobbying, in my opinion, compared to Kansas City, Missouri, at one time, I know they were spending several $1 million a year in direct lobbying. And ours is, I'm going to guess, less than $100,000. So quite a difference. So.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, this will be moved to consent. Next item.
Item number 4, resolution number 085-18, consider granting an exemption from alcoholic liquor prohibitions of KSA 41-719 for the libraries listed in the resolution, subject to the terms of the resolution, and repealing resolution number 045-14.
Okay.
Good morning, Tricia Solentrop with the library, stepping in for Sean Casserly. We're asking for an exemption from the alcohol and liquor prohibition, essentially to have alcoholic liquor on the property of all current libraries for special events connected with our Friends and Foundation events.
This, we've done this for the Central Library, but this would be applicable to the other library.
That's correct.
Locations.
Yes, in 2016, Central was allowed to have alcohol at such events.
Right. Questions? Consent?
Consent's
All right,
fine, yeah.
so noted. Next item.
Item number 5, resolution number WD 18-031, conduct a public hearing and consider authorizing funds for roofing services at Johnson County wastewater treatment and pumping facilities in the amount not to exceed $800,000.
Ms. Picari.
That's for another one. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Susan Picaric with Wastewater. This funding request is for roof repair and replacement at several of the Johnson County wastewater facilities. JCW has over 100 roofs between all of our treatment plants and our pumping stations. And there are several roofs that are in need of replacement and others that need repair. Our staff has prioritized roof replacements in a plan for the coming year, and we estimate the cost of those replacements to be $650,000. Repairs are also needed at several other on several other buildings, and that estimate is at $110,000. We would also like to provide for an ongoing roof monitoring and preventive maintenance program in order to maximize the lives of our roofs going forward. We plan to utilize a contract with a company that's called Roof Connect for roofing products and services, and they are through the National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance. Authorization of a contract with Roof Connect is the next agenda item. The funding for this request totals $800,000, and it was included in our most recent capital finance charge that we presented to the board in May of this year. We can answer any questions.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. McCarrick, the contract through the cooperative contract through the IPA, when was that developed? Is that a recent contract negotiation, or is that something that's been long-standing? Do you have any sense?
The IPA contract?
Yes.
Do you know Dale Bauer is here from purchasing? I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Dale Bauer, Procurement. The National IPA awarded a contract to Roof Connect and another company probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they were just renewed within the last month. So the contract we're going to use is a current contract, and I believe it's got 1 year with 3 one-year renewals. So
is this, it sounds like it's set up kind of like a term and supply contract. How do we know that the vendor that's won this term and supply contract really is providing us the most competitive bid for this type of work?
I was actually going to speak to that on the next agenda item. This is for the funding piece, but just in brief, they actually utilize multiple roofing companies throughout the metro area, and so they'll be getting, they utilize bids from those different companies. On any project that we're going to be doing that's over $10,000, we'll require them to provide at least 2 bids in order for us to evaluate.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you. Well, this does require, this is a public hearing, so it will remain on action. Next item.
Item number 6, consider authorizing a term and supply contract with Roof Connect under the National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance Cooperative Contract number R132203 for roofing services in the amount not to exceed $800,000 annually. The contract period for this award is for 1 year with an option to renew annually for 4 additional 1-year periods.
Ms. McCarrick.
Chairman and Commissioner, Susan Picaric. So this is the companion item. We were just speaking about Roof Connect. And so I'll be happy to answer any other questions. I think I spoke to the bidding piece. And this is for a 1-year contract with up to 4-year renewals, 4 1-year renewals.
So this will be a companion item following the public hearing that will remain on action. Next item.
Item number 7, resolution number WD18-035. Conduct a public hearing and consider authorizing funds for Johnson County wastewater facility improvement projects in an amount not to exceed $2,530,000.
Ms. Picaric.
Good morning, Susan Picaric with Wastewater again. This request is for multiple projects that we bring to the board a few times a year. In this request, we have 3 separate requests. The first one is for treatment and pumping facility asset renewal. These are projects that have been identified through our asset management program. The amount of this request is $590,000. The second item is for the Middle Basin Sodium Bicarbonate Feed System. This is a request for design and bid phase funding in the amount of $460,000. In 2016, one of the digesters, this is a map of the Middle Basin facility we've got up on the screen right now, and here in this red box, that's the digester complex. And these 4 round tanks you see in the upper right-hand corner, those are the anaerobic digesters. And in 2016, we had one experience a significant, or experience an upset, which caused a disruption in our operations and our ability to receive fat, soils, and grease at that facility. We hired Black & Veatch to help us develop solutions to reduce the risk of future problems, and they've identified 12 potential improvements. This is one of those improvements. This one is a sodium bicarbonate feed system. Put it simply, the digesters work a lot like your own digestive system, and this sodium bicarbonate system is a lot like feeding the digesters Tums. So to help keep it from getting upset. So that total request, as I said, was $460,000. The last request is for $1,480,000, and it's for construction funding that will be executed through our wastewater facilities repair and improvements term and supply contracts, which the board awarded back in June. There are several improvements that have been identified to our treatment facilities and our pumping stations. The total request for this briefing sheet is $2,530,000. And we did include this request in our most recent capital finance charge that we had presented to the board in May.
Okay, questions? All right,
That's just
Brown. This is a
comment,
public
that's-
hearing, so it will remain on action.
Yes, that's some expensive Pepto-Bismol.
It is, you are right.
Okay, next item.
Item number 8, resolution number 084-18, conduct a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment and testimony on the proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2018 budget and consider adoption of amending the fiscal year 2018 budget for the Mental Health Fund, Risk Management Fund, and Wastewater SRCFP Fund.
Good morning, Nate Bloom, Budget Office. There are 3 proposed amendments to the 2018 budget. The first one is the Mental Health Fund for $1.9 million. After the 2018 budget was adopted, mental health received additional funding from various sources. Some of those sources include State of Kansas, United Healthcare, and several grants. The purpose of these funds is to improve and expand mental health services in Johnson County. For them to use the funds this year, we need a budget amendment. We also have an amendment to the Wastewater Capital Fund for $177 million. This is due to the 2018 bonds that we issued for Tomahawk and other projects for wastewater. Originally, we were budgeted to issue $62 million. So in order for them to transfer their bond proceeds to the projects, they needed a budget amendment. The last amendment is to the Risk Management Fund for $3 million. Risk Management received insurance payout related to the airport's claim for windstorm damage at the Executive Airport. And again, Risk Management needs authority to transfer those proceeds to the airport to reimburse for the costs related to the windstorm damage.
I would say this, with what's happened to interest rates in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Springstead, as well as budget staff and those involved in that decision to issue the maximum number of bonds when we did, good job, because the rates have gone up.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, this again requires a public hearing, so it'll remain on action. Next item.
Item number 9, resolution number 089-18, RFP 2018-051. Consider adopting an amend the fiscal year 2018-2022 Capital Improvement Project, CIP, to include the creation of a project account not to exceed the amount of $1,325,296 for stormwater infrastructure improvements at New Century Air Center Navy Park, and approving and authorizing a contract with George Butler Associates for the design and bidding and construction phase engineering services for the project at a cost not to exceed $271,289.
Mr. Otto.
Good morning, Aaron Otto with the County Manager's Office, helping represent the airport this morning. Before you, it's a kind of a mouthful that Chris just read, and we'll amend the 2018-22 CIP to which will create a project account for up to $1,325,296 for design, construction oversight, and construction of this stormwater work at New Century. It will also authorize a design and construction engineering services not to exceed $271,289. What the project is, as you're well aware, New Century Air Center is a former Olathe Naval Air Station, and about a third of all the stormwater really around the runway areas and the airport operations flows into 2 retaining ponds, and most of which haven't been addressed or dealt with in the last few decades. So this project has three components. One, it will replace a spillway that's been in place since 1942 and has done its job, but it has definitely lived up to its service life, and that regulates water flow out of those ponds down into a stream. Second, it will clean up a lot of the banks that are having bank erosion, which is threatening some utilities and also makes it difficult to mow and do any kind of work around there. And then third, it will remove a previous land bridge that was used for the railroad coming up through there when it was part of the Olathe Naval Air Station, and that will increase the storage capacity on site. And because of those different activities, and there is obviously a significant investment of $1.3 million, this did qualify, and you approved last week this part of the Stormwater Management Advisory Council, or SMAC project grants. So 25% of this will come from the airport's enterprise fund, and roughly 75%, with a couple other expenses that are not qualified, will come from the SMAC fund. The non-qualified will go back to the airport. And so this, we went out working with purchasing and did an RFP for a vendor to do the design services. There were two groups that submitted, and what's brought before you is the request to go forward with GBA to do the design services and the construction oversight. What the next steps will be if this is approved is that the design will be created, it will go out for bid for the construction services, and then it's anticipated it will be well over $100,000, so go back to the Airport Commission, and it will come back to the Board of County Commissioners in the future. This was considered by the Airport Commission and approved unanimously also by them.
The clarification, the 25% that the Airport Commission will be responsible for, anticipated, is that 25% of the 1.3, or is there another number?
Ultimately, around the 25% of the 1.3. It's a little bit higher. There's a few expenses that are not qualified for SMAC that'll be 100% to the airport, but overall, it's about a 75-25 split.
Okay, all right. Questions? Consent, action? Remain on action, okay.
I'm fine with consent, but maybe
Next
some
item.
they have questions.
Yeah. Next item.
Thank you.
Item number 10, resolution number 077-18, SE-FDP-3422 SP. Consider a request from Robert S. Murphy Trust, applicant landowner, for final development plan plat approval for 10 residential lots to be known as Copper Hill Estates 2 on approximately 20 acres zoned PRUR.
Mr. Leipzig.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jay Leipzig, Planning Department. This item is before you for a final development plan at 191st and Lackman. It's the Robert Murphy Trust. It came out of the Southeast Consolidated Zoning Board. That body recommended approval of this item on September the 5th, and staff is also recommending approval. The preliminary plat for this item was brought before you in August of this year. And as another note, this is one of the first projects we worked with Mr. Murphy on a development review process where we met actually several times with staff, kind of looking at the best alternative, what we could come up with here in terms of a land plan.
Recommended by both the zoning board and staff, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So this is, if there's no question, this is a planning item, so we'll remain on action. Next item.
Item number 11, resolution number 078-18, SE-PDP/FDP/3423 AU. Consider a request from Bryant Combs, applicant landowner, for preliminary and final development plan for construction of an office/warehouse building on property zoned PEC3, planned light industrial park district.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jay Leipzig. This item for preliminary and final development plan at 207th and Metcalf. As a note, this development plan and preliminary plan were approved back in 2015. However, we have an expiration of those plans, and so that's why this item is being brought before you, because there was no construction activity on that site. Everything remains the same. It's for a contractor's warehouse and storage yard. There is at main access for the site plan is off of 207th Street, where that ends by the railroad tracks. We are asking, staff is asking that the entrance off of Metcalf be removed. This was kind of an impromptu entrance that the owner was using for a while for some construction supplies. So, and there is a CUP associated with this for outdoor storage that expires in 2024.
Okay, questions? Again, this is planning, so we'll remain on action. Next item.
Item 12, application number SE-PP/FP/3419AU. Consider a request from Allen Brand/Drews applicant and Josh and Margaret Arnold landowners for a preliminary and final plat for one residential lot to be known as Arnold Acres, located at 21175 Mission Road on approximately 5 acres on property zoned RN1 Residential Neighborhood 1 District.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jay Leipzig again. This item is off of Mission Road. It's for a preliminary and final plat for a one-lot subdivision. This is really a cleanup item. It's one where the home has existed since 1977. The lot was created in 1987. This is to clean up a building permit issue to allow the property owner to move forward with obtaining a building permit to construct a pool on the site.
Okay, question? Again, it's a planning item. Remain on action. Next item.
Item 13, resolution number 083-18, application number SE/CU/3424SP. Consider a request from CCATT for Crown Castle USA Incorporated, applicant, and John and Jennifer Hanson, landowners, for a conditional use permit renewal for an existing 194-foot tall monopole communication tower on 100-foot by 100-foot leased parcel located at 19670 West 215th Street, zoned RUR, Rural District.
Mr. Leipzig.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Jay Leipzig again. This is my last item. And I should note that the previous two items all came out of the Southeast Zoning Board on September the 5th. Staff recommended approval. The Zoning Board recommended approval. In this particular case, this is for a monopole tower. Came out of the Southeast Consolidated Zoning Board. That body recommended approval on September the 5th. This is actually the third time this item has been in front of you. It was originally constructed in 2002, then it was renewed in 2008, and then asking for renewal for an additional 10 years.
Questions? Mr. Brown?
I have just a couple, just curiosities about that. Do we know, what is the useful life of a monopole that size? Do we know what that is?
Commissioner Brown, I don't know. I don't know for certain. I know that technology is changing so rapidly, but I am not an expert in that.
Okay.
And,
that question fuels the next question for me, is that in the event that technology leaps forward and those are no longer necessary, is there a stipulation that it has to be taken down and at whose expense it has to be taken down in the event that they don't need it anymore? What happens at the end of its useful life?
I'm looking at Diane Wickman, our
I see that.
principal planner, who's nodding yes. I believe there is some language in the contract, but Diane, do you want to address it?
Okay.
There is some language in the stipulations that are noted in the CUP application.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Again, this will remain on action. Any other items?
No, sir.
Okay, that concludes our agenda review. We do not have an afternoon session. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the Chiefs this weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.